Dragon Ball Super Broly is arguably the best Dragon Ball movie of all time. I had the privilege of watching it in the movie theaters when it first came out, and then me and Madison very recently got to watch it together for the first time, Madison's first time. For the Patreon, I want to have a little discussion, a post-movie discussion on what we thought. This is not an in-depth review, because if we were going to do an in-depth review, we could probably come up with things to say for like 3 hours. So this is just off the top of our heads, what we liked, what we enjoyed, what we thought of the movie in general. What did you think, Madison?
I agree with you that it's the best Dragon Ball movie that we've ever seen. And I really appreciated how they focused in during the first part of the movie on the history, and they focused on characters that we only had glimpses of in the past, like Bardock and King Vegeta. I felt like they did those scenes so well. There was no plot holes either, which is what I really appreciated.
I think a portion of this movie did a great job tying in all of the loose ends that otherwise would not have been tied up if this movie were not to be a part of the canon. So they kind of brought everything together, and the way they did it, the way they executed this movie was like phenomenal, brilliant. I have no other words to describe it. It was just done so correctly in every aspect, not just the storytelling, but like the previous characters making their debut in the initial scene, like Captain Ginyu and the Ginyu Force, King Cold, Frieza, Dodoria, Zarbon, all of these characters. It was such a treat from the get-go, from like the first second of the movie. They showed a lot of screen time for Targus. Like he got a lot of screen time, and we got to see like that he was a caring father, and how he was casted away by King Vegeta, and how all of this lore tied into the current Dragon Ball Super universe. And that was pretty epic. There's a lot of other points in the plot that we'll go through that were just like absolutely phenomenal. And I have a couple things to tell you guys about, some experiences between me and Madison and stuff that happened in the movie theaters. So I'm kind of excited to get into this, but let's try to keep it short because we can ramble forever if we don't keep it short.
Yeah, I think let's definitely talk about Broly's character. They did so well with his character because in previous Broly movies, he was so barbaric. He couldn't even like put a sentence together. And in this movie, you felt for him. You were like, wow, he grew up so difficult. It's hard to be this person with all this power that you can't control. You felt for him so deeply. And I love that he was able to actually have conversations.
Yeah, he wasn't just a brute or a maniac
Right.
that just screamed Kakarot the entire movie.
Yeah.
Another great plot point was Gine, which was Goku's mom. We got introduced to Gine. And the relationship that she had with Bardock was so wholesome. I love that so much. And in this movie, they finalized the fact that it was Bardock who sent Goku back to Earth.
Yes.
As opposed to the Frieza Force, like randomly sending Goku to Earth. So they tied that up really well.
It's crazy that they touched on like Vegeta, Broly, and Goku as small children who aren't even like out of their womb yet.
Yeah.
And they were already talking about their future and their power levels. It was crazy that King Vegeta felt like Vegeta was going to be the one to save their entire race from Frieza.
Another cool thing in the plot was like all of these thematic elements showing up all the time, like friendship, love, death, good versus evil, loyalty. We saw loyalty with Broly when he was sitting with Chilai and Limon, whatever the guy's name is. They were all three of them were together, and the two of them were telling Broly how Targus was like a controlling father, and Broly at the end of it basically told them to piss off, that they shouldn't talk that way about his father. Like he stayed loyal to his imperfect father at the end of it, and that was such a beautiful theme to experience. And also like when you talk about like how you felt for Broly, you can go back to scenes where he was like talking about Ba, for example, and how he keeps a piece of Ba, the character, the animal that he had on his home planet, along with him. He's tied his ear up to his waist and carries that everywhere. So there was like this human element to it.
Yeah, he was definitely very human, and I appreciated that about him. And his loyalty to his father was so deep that Frieza knew, and he capitalized on that.
Yes.
That scene when Frieza first decides to kill Targus, they flash back to when he kills Krillin.
What an evil bastard.
He was like, I knew this made Goku go to the next level, so I'm going to do it and see what happens to Broly.
And I like that the viewer got to see that. Like, the characters didn't know, besides Frieza, obviously, who shot Targus in the chest. So Madison's basically talking about the scene where Frieza kills Targus and then says, oh, Broly, like, a random beam just hit your father and now he's dead. That is also another awesome point that you made that goes back to what you were saying about feeling the characters. Frieza is such an evil, conniving bastard, and we got to see that again in scenes like that, for example.
Yeah, he stays true to his character through and through, and I appreciate that they never make him soft, because you can never sympathize with him.
Another cool thing was seeing when Goku was fighting against Broly, and we got this almost like a transition between their fight going from a sparring match to a life or death situation for Goku. You can see Goku's facial expressions, his pupils going in and out of his eyes as Broly is slamming him to the ground. And you're like, wow, this just got real. Like, it wasn't this real before. They were just playing around, fighting with one another, sparring. Like, it was sparring in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then it went to like, oh, damn, this guy's a threat. We got to eliminate him. I like that they paid a little bit of homage to the fact that Broly is like this weird being that just gets stronger.
He learns.
For almost no reason. Like, that's just who he is. Like, it's in his essence. It's his very being. So they kept that true to the original Broly from Dragon Ball Z. That was awesome.
There was also a lot of moments that were so creative in showing that he was able to learn throughout battle. Like, one of my favorite scenes is when Goku is Super Saiyan God and he's talking with Broly and he's like has him in his control and he's like holding him back and he's telling him, you're saying like this is the Goku effect moment.
Yes, there was 2 of those. So Goku in Super Saiyan God basically halts Broly and with his ki, and he's trying to tell Broly like, you don't have to be crazy. Like, you can be one of us.
Exactly.
We would like you to be one of us. It's the Goku effect happening. Where he's trying to convert the almost bad guy into one of them. And you see, obviously, that it doesn't work. And Broly, like, miraculously turns Goku's attack right back on him, which was freaking crazy.
And that's where you saw he was learning in battle. And you're like, holy crap. Because he's doing the craziest stuff.
Yeah.
And wow, that's definitely one of the moments, turning points for Goku, when he was like, this is actually getting very serious.
The other time that we see the Goku effect is at the very end, but we'll touch on that in a second. I want to talk about fusion and how awesomely it was done in this movie. I love the fact that they paid homage to Dragon Ball Z with the failures in the fusion, where Goku and Vegeta couldn't fuse properly, and we got all of the fat form and then the really skinny form, and then they did like a little graph of like how their fingers didn't touch properly or whatever. And I love the fact that Piccolo was the teacher, just like Piccolo was the teacher for Goten and Trunks in Dragon Ball Z. So that was an epic touch in my opinion. I love the fact that Gogeta came up with his own name. How awesome, because Vegito inherently knew his name, but in this movie Gogeta's like, now what should we call ourselves? And then he like thought about it for a minute, and then they finally came up with Gogeta, which was epic.
That scene was such a comedic relief too. Because in the meantime, Broly was fighting like Whis and Frieza.
Yeah.
It was so cool because those two were just out of the scene all of a sudden. And
how ironic, by the way, that Frieza got dragged into the fight.
I'm so glad he did too.
Yeah, Frieza was getting his ass kicked very ironically because he was the one who brought Broly upon everybody, and then funny enough, he was getting pummeled by Broly. And then Whis was a little comedic relief too, because Whis was like, oh, you almost got me.
I love that.
Yeah, that was awesome. Gogeta telling Frieza about their fusion was awesome. That scene where he comes and he's like, Frieza's like, who the hell are you? What are you? And he's like, oh, this is the both of us fused and you wouldn't know anything about this. That was such a boss statement.
Was so good.
Before I get to the transformations, I actually want to touch on two things about Gogeta. One of the things that I didn't actually like, and this is super subjective, I'm not saying it's bad, it's just my personal preference. As epic as Gogeta's moves were, I didn't like the fact that he was like shattering through dimensions with Broly. I know it was like a display of power and all of this stuff, but I just felt like it was just kind of a little too much for me. I thought it was too much.
Like too much was going on?
Yeah, it was like too colorful. It was like very trippy. I probably would have enjoyed it if I were taking some shrooms or something.
Oh my gosh.
But I just like, I totally had gotten the point that these two were like colossal characters and they were fighting in epic proportions. I just felt like that was a little passed over the edge. And I didn't like the fact that Frieza at the end is basically saying like how he's going to murder everybody in front of Gogeta. Gogeta's literally right next to him in his blue form. Dude, I was like, Gogeta, just finish this guy off right now. But of course they wouldn't, because Frieza is now a part of the Dragon Ball Super series. So we're gonna see him in the future of Dragon Ball Super.
I also feel like they couldn't kill his character off in the middle of a movie. If they did that, it would have to be...
It would be very abrupt.
Yeah, it would probably be more in an episode, if anything. But
going back to the transformations, I want to tell a little story about the movie theater and how much of a roar there was in the movie theater. The first time I went to see this by myself, when it first came out. When we saw Vegeta turn into Super Saiyan, and it's almost identical to when he went Super Saiyan against like Cell in the Cell saga. And we got a little touch of that green hair, like an artistic style in the hair. That was epic. And then the way he was just standing there powered up with the aura coming off of him, that was like chef kiss beautiful.
Definitely.
But the moment where the movie theater was like screaming, I'm talking about like 100 dudes in this place, just screaming their ass, including me, by the way, I was screaming my ass off, was when we finally got to see the Super Saiyan God form, the red form for Vegeta, and how he just like elegantly and beautifully transformed into it as he's like propelling through the sky.
Like his nose is up, right?
Yeah, oh my God, that was such a freaking good scene.
Oh, I was so happy to finally see him in Super Saiyan God. It has been so long. It was so overlooked for so long, too. It was just like, oh, Vegeta's Super Saiyan Blue.
Yeah,
we never got to see him in Super Saiyan God.
Yeah, they jumped over just like they jumped over Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. Yeah. And we never got to see that, by the way.
So seeing him transform, oh my gosh. Even thinking about it now, I just like can visualize all of it.
Yeah, that was awesome. Another thing I want to touch on, which was really cool that some people might have not noticed, is Goku being a fool and not knowing what the word repugnant means, and Frieza kind of explaining it to him. And then he, full circle, like after that scene, at the very end, learns what repugnant means and uses it correctly in a sentence with Broly. And he's like, oh, your planet's like repugnant or whatever. And it's funny because Madison off camera was like, I'm so glad that Goku asked Frieza what it meant because I didn't know what this word was. So that was like a little wholesome thing that happened between us.
Yeah, there was a lot of full circle moments in that movie, which I think made it so good.
I want to point out two more things and then we'll talk about a couple more points and end the discussion. Chilai calling Goku an enemy at the end goes to show that you're the bad guy in somebody's story and you can't please everybody. That was something that stuck to me. And another thing was, and this was so epic, Goku calling... All right, let me explain this in the proper way. Hold on, because I'm getting super excited talking about it. That was such a great way to end the freaking show, the movie. Chilai asked Goku what his name is. He's like, my name is Goku, but you can call me Kakarot. Like, and then it just ends there.
That was epic.
How did you guys do that? Like, how'd you come up with that? That was so freaking beautiful.
So well done.
Paying homage to, like, Broly always saying Goku's name as Kakarot.
Yes.
And then Goku in this movie finishing it off as, like, hey, my name is Goku, but you call me Kakarot. It's, like, paying homage to that, but also the fact that they're Saiyans and Vegeta calls him Kakarot. I love that.
I loved it too.
How do they come up with such good content like this?
That's what I was saying. There was like no plot holes in this movie. It was just so well done. Whoever was writing it,
the directing was incredible. I'm just so impressed by the movie. Yeah.
I wanted to touch on some more transformations that I liked.
What was that?
I just felt like the battle scenes and like the second half of the movie was so well done. And they were able to display the power of Broly in a way that, just because of the landscape they were in, that you could just really understand how powerful he was and like his rage.
Yeah. So
those shock waves like radiating across the whole landscape.
There were so many frames.
Yes.
That too. And then like the environments and like the ambient things that were going on behind the characters in the background, it was full of detail. So
detailed. And there was one moment where I thought Goku was going to become Ultra Instinct.
Oh, yes. I almost forgot about that.
And then he didn't. I think everyone was on the edge of their seat for that.
Yes, that's another time in the movie theater where everybody was like, holy shit. Because we saw that glimpse of like white hair come up. And it's funny enough because at the end of Dragon Ball Super, they ask Vegeta and Goku are sparring and Vegeta says, come on, bring out the Ultra Instinct that you've been using. He's like, oh, I don't know how to do that. That was like in the heat of the moment or something like that.
Typical Goku. Yeah. And when he said it was in the heat of the moment, it was because he was like pushed to his absolute edge. And Broly was starting to push him to that point. And that's why we thought maybe he would do Ultra Instinct so that
Yes.
he could actually fight him.
The thing
But
is,
it didn't come out.
it was a different circumstance in this movie. It wasn't the same urgency, a sense of urgency as the Tournament of Power.
Yeah.
Broly was kind of keeping up with Goku and Vegeta through
Right.
each and every form, and they were almost kind of, in a way, training him
Yeah.
to the level that they were at.
But I actually love that he didn't end up going Ultra Instinct.
Yeah.
Because,
That would have been too easy.
Exactly. And because of that, we got to finally see Gogeta.
Yeah, Gogeta was epic. And him being a part of the canon, dude, I'm so hyped for the future of Dragon Ball Super.
too.
Like, you don't understand. I don't know anything. I watched some of the manga reviews by some of the YouTubers like Unreal Gaming Entertainment. I think that's his name. I follow up with some of the stuff that I used to, at least, with Geekdom 101. And I kind of stopped doing it just out of nowhere. And I'm very glad that I did, because I don't know anything that's happening in Dragon Ball Super after like the Moro arc or whatever. So I'm very excited to finally go through that and see all of these characters almost come together.
I'm really excited for that too. I don't know anything about it and I don't want to because I want to be surprised from the very beginning.
Anyway, on a final note, the CGI was amazing in like 95% of the scenes. The only thing that I had a problem with was the CGI between like Goku and Broly fighting or whatever. I just didn't like that. That's another subjective thing that's like particular to me.
Mm-hmm.
But like the CGI of like Frieza Force or the Frieza spaceship, like moving through space, that was all fine. Like I love that actually. That was a great touch. The relationships in the movie were very solid, like we mentioned. Mm-hmm. The animation was absolutely top notch. The art style was phenomenal and it was very fluid with beautiful colors and even better shading.
And I really want to say that the way they made the characters fly in this movie was like so different and so well done. The way that their bodies moved was like so realistic, and that's why I really liked it.
The choreography was phenomenal.
It was so new. It wasn't anything reused. Like even in the very beginning when Vegeta fights Broly for the first time, he like gets on his hands and like kicks him off with his feet.
Also, like the rolling thing. I don't know if that happens in Dragon Ball, but Goku Super Saiyan God is literally rolling away from Broly.
Oh, yeah.
And Broly is like stomping with his feet, following him. And then Goku finally pushes up and backflips like with one hand.
Oh,
How
yeah.
freaking awesome was that choreography?
So good. It's just so fluid. And I think that's what made the movie incredible.
Yeah, all of it coming together with the lore and the relationships and the animation and the plot. All of it was just like I don't have words for it.
Yeah.
I literally stuttered.
I think the whole time everyone was thoroughly entertained.
The animation, though, there was one part like that I really want to mention. There was some parts of the animation that were pretty like mid. It happened in like a very few scenes, and you would have to have the eye to catch it or have been like focused in on it. There was one scene where Goku was like this with his fingers.
Oh, yeah.
His fingers were drawn like kind of silly.
Yeah, I remember that one.
But that's to be expected. That comes with the territory
Yeah.
for Dragon Ball. The comedy, lastly, was on point. It was lighthearted and funny. I love that about Dragon Ball. That's what we really appreciate about Dragon Ball. It's always a feel-good thing. There was familiar jokes like Vegeta bashing on Goku's intelligence.
Yeah.
Beerus becoming a babysitter while all
love
of this
that.
crap is happening. But the new jokes were funny too, like and wholesome, like Bulma and Frieza's wishes. That was hilarious.
That was really good.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, that was really good. I forgot about that.
We're going to be posting a lot on the Anime Reaction podcast channel now that Madison has seen all of Dragon Ball Z, all of Dragon Ball Super. We've seen like 25 episodes of Dragon Ball.
Don't
You've
forget
seen-
GT.
Yeah, you've seen all of GT. Yeah, don't forget GT. You've seen all of One Punch Man season 1. You've seen all of Naruto, and we're on Naruto Shippuden episode like 80 or something right now. And you guys can check all those reactions out on the Patreon. And if you are, only if you're willing and able, and if you're not, they will come to YouTube eventually. Patreon's always ahead of the YouTube. And that's it. I think we got everything we wanted to say off of our chest, right?
Definitely. It was really fun.
Guys, thank you for being here with us. We really appreciate you. We can't wait to watch the next and final Dragon Ball Super movie, which is the superhero movie, which I've never seen before. Like I said, we'll do more of the anime reaction podcasts. So stay tuned. And as always, peace out.